How's you doing?
Um, um, well, I'm home.
Well, that's good. It's been a while,
Yeah.
hasn't it? So, let me boo. Yeah,
Okay, so
exactly.
one thing is that I am trying something radically different today to connect. I actually noticed when I went to the link that it said
Yes.
that there is a Riverside application for Mac.
Oh, there's a Mac app now. Okay.
Yes, and I saw the link and I'm like, wait, why the hell am I firing up a browser and doing this shit? I downloaded the application and I am doing it from the application right now.
Beautiful. That is exciting and
Tingling?
wait, no, I was thinking exciting and new. Love Boat.
The Love Boat. Da-da-da. Soon we'll be making another run. The Love Boat.
Exactly. I'm glad you sang it and not me, but yeah. Yeah, exactly. Shall we just jump in and go?
Sure.
Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Here we go. Welcome to Curmudgeon's Corner for Saturday, September 28th, 2024. I'm Sam Minter. Yvonne Bow is here. Hello, Yvonne. Let's go.
Let's go.
There you go. So, high energy. Our agenda, as usual, is we're going to have a segment where we talk about non-newsy stuff first, and then we will have a couple of segments on newsy stuff. One with stuff Yvonne picks and one with stuff I pick. And that's the plan. You're the plan.
Out of focus for some reason.
I know the people listening to the podcast can't tell the live. If there was anybody on a live stream,
that would be, well, apparently we have people.
It just popped into focus.
There you go. Yeah, we have, you're saying that, but yet we've discovered that we have had people that are watching this.
Yeah, let me check the stats on our YouTube channel, which, by the way, youtube.com/@curmudgeons-corner. We are now up to 7 subscribers.
There you go.
Only 5 of them have names that I can see because they've made their subscriptions public, but that's okay.
That's fine.
And let's see what our views have looked like on recent episodes. Okay.
2 million views. We're getting a check soon.
Yes, that's it. No. So far on this live stream, no views. Last week's episode had 1 view.
Well,
1 view. Now, of course, that only means they looked at a couple seconds, not that they watched the whole episode.
So it doesn't necessarily mean, okay, well, I mean, see the streaming stats. I mean, I don't.
And then we had our August 31st show had 5 views. Our August 24th had 6. I can see on the dashboard, by the way. That only tells me last week, which had no view. Anyway, here we go. The summary of our watch time from the last 28 days.
Yeah.
In hours.
Yeah.
0.0 hours.
We're doing great.
We're doing it's awesome.
Our money's gonna be rolling in. I mean, we're gonna be rich, Sam. We're gonna be rich off of YouTube.
The Patreon wasn't making quite enough, so the YouTube is going to make us billionaires because the people are just they can't get enough.
They're gonna have to just turn over their stock to us. I mean, just adore. Yeah, listen, you owe us so much money. Just look. Just right. So, stock used to come with these certificates that you could actually endorse and give to somebody. They just print the stock certificates.
I have a better stat.
Okay, even better.
So I looked it up. The top content in the last 28 days, the number one was the August 31st episode, which had 5 views, if you remember.
Yeah.
The average view duration,
2 minutes.
15 seconds.
Wow. Damn. Hey.
So
impressive. Yeah. Listen, they probably just popped in. They saw how sick I looked, and then they just said, "Well, we're done."
Exactly.
We might just get sick just by looking at them through this screen. For God's sakes.
Exactly. So and look, I do put out the little Mastodon toot that says we're live, but no one cares. It's okay. Okay.
So
I know the time is not like good for this kind of thing.
Well. Anyway,
we could be big in Japan.
Sure. In Asia. Yeah. It's a good time to be watched in Asia. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. It's ideal.
So anyway, but first, what do you have this week, Yvonne? Something good, non-newsy?
Well, I'll say about non-newsy. It's non-newsy just because it's something that I spoke about how I had that lunch last week. 2 weeks. Was it? It was last. No, yes, it was last week.
You mean the award thing that you got?
No, the one that I was in Napa, where I had first the guy
you talked
about him just being an irresponsible idiot driving his.
Yes. You talked about that last week.
So I talked about that.
No.
The thing is that lunch had so many wide-ranging things, and there was another one that popped up.
Was another stupid person?
Well, it was the same guy. This guy, I will say, it seemed to be kind of a dick. Okay, and so, but one of the things that, and I, probably if I gave more details, people could maybe figure out who he is, but so I won't.
Okay. No. Yeah.
But but one thing that we were talking at the table about a whole bunch of different things, and we were talking about. That area got hit 4 years ago by some massive fires.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Napa and for example, the hotel where I stayed at least half of it was destroyed by the fire. They still have not restored that part. And as I was going through there, and we're talking about 4 years later, so many trees and so many things were damaged that there's still work going on. We were at this winery, and you could hear trees getting chopped down that were from the fire, and how they're doing a lot of work, and how honestly the damage is so extensive that it's taken years and years. They are, I would say that they're not paralyzed by it by any means, but there's a lot of things where, okay, we cleaned up you did probably 80-90% of the work. But there's still a big pieces that are not done. And some things that aren't coming back. There was a very big hotel near the one that we were staying called the Calistoga Ranch that was completely destroyed by the fire. And basically, the owner got paid by the insurance company, and he was just like, "Fuck it, I'm taking the money, and I'm not building this again."
Right.
It was that extensive. And so we're talking a little bit about just the situation going on and some stuff. We were talking about this, and we were talking about for some reason with natural disasters. I was mentioning that that this guy that we knew from a long time ago. He was he owned quite a number of the duty-free stores in the Caribbean.
Okay.
And one time back in around the early 90s, a big part of his stores were shuttered for months because a massive hurricane hit the Virgin Islands. And one of the things that we were talking about, natural disasters, and the conversation coming around with COVID and PPP funds, because some people are talking about that. A lot of the people there were business owners and taking PPP funds. And we're talking about what people had done. Most of the people at the table, I will say that for the most part, they did good use of it. And even like I mentioned that we hired more people. They said, no, yeah, we did the same and so forth. So most of the people at the table were, I was like, you're good. And so I was mentioning the case that this guy back in the early 90s, and I think that he went, and when all his stores got shut down by the hurricanes, instead of laying off anybody, he paid everybody their salaries for months and months and months until all the stores reopened. He didn't not lay off one single person. In most of these cases, that's not typical. I can assure you that most hotels are shut down a month later. They're laying off everybody. They're not paying anybody a dime. And it's one of those things that a few times that you had met him, and this guy, I didn't realize how much money this guy had. Okay. It's just one of those things that you meet him and he's such, he was so affable, open, helping everybody, whatever. You heard about this stuff, how he went and like basically out of his pocket, he was just like, fuck this, whatever, I'm paying everybody, you guys can come and help. We'll do clean up, whatever, whatnot, until we're open back. Yeah, none of you guys are going to miss a paycheck. Okay. I don't care. Doesn't fucking matter. Okay. I'm dead. And so we were talking about how he was, and we talked about that kind of stuff. And so Tesla Boy was complaining because he owns
Tesla Boy, being the person who talked about last week, who like slept and
who basically put a weight who put a weight on his car and just would go to sleep to let it drive. Okay,
right.
He was complaining that he does deliveries under contract for a very large company in the Pacific Northwest that ships a lot of things ships a lot of stuff.
I wonder who you could possibly be talking about.
I don't know. Yeah. Costco probably. And then he was complaining that they had made him pay his drivers more money. Push it up from $20 to $22, an hour. And he was bitching about it. And so a few of us at the table, and actually there was another gentleman at the table who owned a massive auto dealership group in the Midwest. Okay. And he was almost like, we looked at him and said, dude, how much you think a fucking employee costs? What the hell? How much do you want to pay him? What do you think? What are you going to, they're going to pay their living expenses with what, like $10 an hour? Nobody can afford a damn thing,
right,
out of that money. But it was just the damn attitude of, hey, you're in a major metro with very high costs, and you think that you can get away with paying full-time people like, $10-11 an hour. And then, oh, by the way, expect them not to steal packages and do stuff or whatever, and you're paying them like, wages that they can't afford anything, it's just preposterous, but obviously there, that is an attitude that thankfully at the table, most people were like, they looked at him, they were like, dude, what planet are you living on, man? Nobody can afford anything on $10 an hour. And somebody had posted a sign, because I've seen this already. Multiple people like complain, oh, we can't find workers. We can't find workers. We are short on workers. And then you look at the wages,
what they're trying to pay. Yeah.
What they're trying to pay. And you're like, dude, seriously? I mean, yeah, you're not going to get anybody, at that rate. I mean, I talked about how, want to hire a maintenance guy like right now. Basically, that's what the going rate is, north of $20 an hour. Any damn job, for the most part, you want to get somebody, I mean, if you're not paying at least $20 an hour, it really, it's not financially affordable for these people to work.
Now, this does vary by part of the country, but yes, in general, like what people have expected in previous decades is just no longer relevant to the current state anywhere in the country. Now, certain parts of the country are more expensive than others for sure, but still, like what's national minimum wage is still like $7.50 or something.
Yes.
It's like,
but nobody gets paid $7.50. It's it's ridiculous. I mean, I mean, I've seen, the base wages that I see people get paid right now are, I mean, they start, they're north of $10 an hour. Okay. But it's just the entitled attitude is the thing,
right.
From these people, it's just always aggravating. But the one thing, but what I will say is that I happen to be with a number of other business owners and people that, pretty, with big businesses that they were looking at, thankfully, like most of the people at the table were looking at it, was like, dude, you're nuts. And so I felt relieved that it's not just me that thinks that, boys that think this is nuts. It's like, it's thankfully the generalized attitude is like, dude, you got to pay people. So, right. And so I do think that I realized that I was like, damn it, you tend to hear more of the complaining, but I realized that it was a business table with about 1, 2, 3, 4, we're about 5 business people, and basically the consensus was like 80% was like, that we were right that, you can't be thinking of paying people $12 an hour and expecting to get, top-notch workers. I still will never forget. I mean, this is something that some guy at HP that I will say that it's a conundrum to me because I had issues with him, but I found out very much that he deeply respected my work. Okay. And I didn't think that he did, but I found out later, holy shit, that he did. And I was just, it's one of those things where it's one of the last people I expected to do so. And, but one time he made this statement that I was just, my God, this is just the worst statement I've ever heard. He flat out went and said, in a meeting with a lot of people, we want to hire the best talent at the lowest possible wages. And I was just like, what? Come again?
Well, yes. I mean, obviously you're not going to get the best at the lowest, but presumably it is something
competitive.
Well, right, but presumably what you want to...
The lowest is not competitive.
Right, but presumably what you're talking about is you want to optimize to get the peak of that curve, right? Where you're sort of... your employee goodness per dollar is maximized.
I will say that it's just that my philosophy with hiring people was very different. Okay. I went out and I set out to hire the best damn people I could find. And I would set out to pay them more than average. But the reality is that I usually wound up with less people on the team because I didn't believe that quantity of employees, generally was a way to be productive. I figured, you know what? You give me 6 top guns instead of 15 average kind of people.
Well, and presumably this varies greatly based on the job, right? Like if you're talking...
No. I know. Look, financial analysts. Look, you want to hire some person that, basically struggles with... because I've seen these in finance. Oh yeah, he's got a finance degree, whatever. But somebody else takes an hour because it takes this guy 2 days. But what's the point of that? No.
But like your cashier at McDonald's.
Well, it depends on
a different
the role.
kind of thing. That's what I said.
But no. Not even at that. Look, let me tell you something. Same thing applies to retail. Look, Because one of the things that we did with when I had like the better cashiers or the better people like at the store, you know what? They could multitask and do some other shit. Okay.
Yeah.
And so the thing is that I'm like, yeah, they could be okay. I use them at the cashier, but all of a sudden, a vendor came in and they needed to deal with them. If I hired the person that didn't have the capacity to do that, they could deal with it. This guy could say, hey, I'm attending the cashier. At a low point, the vendor comes in. I can check the order. I can sign it off. They can deliver it. And I can trust that person to do it. And we're not going to get screwed.
The bottom line, especially these days, is the kind of roles where you really say like it's completely interchangeable, it's a brainless job, are the ones that are all getting automated anyway.
But even though, my whole point is that, you know what? You're better off getting the better talent and paying them more, because a lot of people are just like, we'll hire volume. Oh, so we have 200% annual turnover. Shit, you're just hiring, you're paying shit and you're hiring bottom of the barrel. They're all turning over. The trainings, you're burning so much money training and recycling people.
I remember
it just makes no sense.
I remember a couple of years reading about, well, I think it was about one specific company, but it has occurred to more than one, where basically because they were doing what you were saying and just rotating through people at the lowest volumes, they were starting to have problems because there were very few people left that they hadn't already hired and gotten rid of within their areas that they were trying to hire, right?
Yeah.
And so it was like
cycled through all of them.
Exactly. I mean, there's always more people, but there's only a certain number that are within the geographic area you're looking for, and blah 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 blah. And they were just having trouble because it was like, oh yeah, we are. You were already here and gone, and So yeah.
Listen,
anyway,
I saw this in the damn copier business. Okay, look, when I worked at Rico, dude, I mean, there are places that had turnover that was like 400%, 500% annual turnover. You understand this, right? That they basically, 500% turnover, Sam. That means there was a team of 40 people, and basically to keep that team staffed, they basically went through 200 people in the whole fucking year. Okay,
right?
It's nuts. Okay. And and they got to a point that all of a sudden next year, right? They'd already gone through all the fucking copier salesmen already a couple of times. So 2, 3, all of a sudden this asshole that they already had fired because he sucked, all of a sudden being recycled through the damn thing because they couldn't find anybody else that was interested in selling fucking copiers.
Right.
So I just no. It's a dumb strategy. I just think that you get. What I think that when you make those teams that are better, the people are also they're more motivated. They're more, having that kind of turnover gets demoralizing after a certain point. When you're when you're on a team and all of a sudden in 6 months you don't know anybody who's already there.
Yeah. Well, and like you said too, below a certain level, it's just like you're not going to get anyone.
No.
Anyway, because no one can live off it. It's not worth the amount of time. Like sometimes you're not even paying them enough to pay for the cost of getting back and forth to work. You know?
That was literally a problem. That was literally a fucking problem. Yes.
And so, you have to adjust. Minimum wage conversations aside, at this point, because we haven't raised the minimum wage, the market is taking care of this.
Oh yeah, the market's taking care of it because it's like ridiculous. Because it's just the minimum wage is just not possible.
But even there, you do have, if you had like a set minimum wage that was thought about more, it might be a little bit higher than the going rates, because you still sort of have a little bit of, for these employers who aren't thinking the way you're talking about and are just like, let's get the cheapest we can possibly get.
They're trying to pay $11 to $12 an hour, and they're like,
there's always sort of a race to the bottom where there's, yes, at a certain point you won't get anybody, but you can get pretty low and still get sort of the most desperate of the desperate.
Yeah.
And And that's not serving anyone well.
No, it's not. So anyway, so I just, it was just, I realized that for whatever reason, the conversations that table got pretty, we talked a wide range of things. It was just, I didn't expect that. I mean, you get set to sit at the table, you get aside with people, and I did have my brother and my sister-in-law at the table, but you get assigned like 10, 12 random people, and you're like, you don't know what the heck you're going to find out. I sat down with this other guy who I did have a lot of fun with, who confessed that he was there separated, and he was like going on his fourth divorce, and I was like, holy shit, your fourth divorce, son of a bitch. And then he was pretty drunk when he told me. The next day we were making fun of him, like, shit, I told you that. Yes, you did. So we had a lot. Yeah. But I will say that I was forced a little bit to like interact with people that I don't know, which that is always harder. I mean, I'm good like a lot with people I know, but I will admit that with new people, it's a little bit of a thing. But I actually had a great time.
Excellent.
So there you go. All right. So Sam, what are we? Movie?
Book.
Wow.
Yeah, and also I will say,
not an audio book, a real book, with or at least in digital form.
This one I read on a Kindle.
Okay, all right.
But I do just say it's a book when I finish an audiobook. I mean I don't.
Well, no, they're books. I just checking which format is it in.
This was a digital ebook on a Kindle.
Okay.
And before I get into the book itself, I will say also, this is the last item I actually have on my backlog of media right now. Now, that does not mean it's the last thing I've watched or read. Because, see, what I do is like every 2 to 3 months. Okay, like, first of all, when I finish something, when I watch a movie, when I finish a TV show, when I finish a book, I take a screenshot on my phone to commemorate the fact that I have finished the thing. And then once every 2 to 3 months, I go through all the screenshots and log them onto my wiki page and onto the backlog for Curmudgeon's Corner. So at the moment, it has been, let's see, I've got, log. It has been 18 weeks, 5 days, and 22 hours since the last time I did that.
Okay.
So anything that I have finished in the last 18 weeks isn't yet on my backlog list for Curmudgeon's Corner. So like, I don't off the top of my head know what's next after this book. Eventually I will go through and do this. And the problem is when it gets to 18 weeks, like the way I do this, like, okay, my phone has lots and lots and lots and lots of images and things of various sorts on it, including my son Alex likes to take the phone and then just do like dozens of pictures of things he's eating and random crap like that
with your phone. So like not his.
Well, he'll do it with his phone too, but if his phone isn't handy, he'll grab mine.
Oh God.
Okay, one of the reasons he has his own phone is so that he can do this stuff on his phone and not clog up my phone with these images.
I get that.
Of course, I never delete anything, so they're all there. So like I literally, when I go through this process, I'm opening up my Photos app and going back one picture at a time and saying, is this a screenshot of something I read or watched? And so like I have to go back through like 10 or 15,000 pictures.
I'm sorry, but so you don't know that the phone automatically creates a folder with your screenshots.
Well, they're not all actually screenshots. Like if something comes on TV, and because there's two things I do here. One is I log.
No. This is said screenshots first. I'm just
you're right. I said screenshots. Generally speaking, when I finish something, it is a screenshot. But I combine this process with the algorithm I use to add additional things to my list.
AI.
So for instance,
we need AI for Sam. Sam needs AI.
Yeah, just for example, like if I see an article Well, articles can sometimes be screenshots. So if I see something on TV where like they're interviewing an author of a book and I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds interesting, I will point my phone at the screen and take a picture of it.
Okay.
And so as I'm going back through this list, it's like only a very, very small fraction of what I'm logging are things I've actually completed. Most of it is books or movies or TV shows that I'm like, oh, that's interesting, I will add it to my list.
Okay.
Does that make sense now?
Yes, it does.
I mean, I know I'm insane, but like,
well, yes,
you understand what I'm saying. Yes. And for those of you who aren't on video, Yvonne is playing with the iOS / Mac auto reactions where like you do a thumbs up or whatever.
I'm not doing anything. I don't know what's going on over
yeah. So like on the video, there's like balloons and thumbs up icons and all this kind of stuff.
Because I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean,
anyway. So anyway, with all of those preliminaries out of the way, the book of the week that I finished in May is Big Data from 2013.
Big Data.
Or
okay.
2014. This? Okay, so the author of this, let me bring it back up. I had the stupid web page up a second ago. Here we go. It is by Victor Meyer Schoenberger and Kenneth Cukier.
Okay, never heard of these people. So what? Okay, question.
So this was like
why it was actually wind up reading this book.
Oh, I don't know. I like sometime many decades ago, like I saw it and was like, "Oh, this is interesting."
Many decades ago. It was only 11 years ago. So the book came out.
Okay, I will tell you exactly. It was added to my list on April 24th, 2013.
Okay, so yeah. When was the book written?
And actually, I have a note here. It was added to my list because I saw some random person on Twitter mention it.
Okay, there you go. All right, so that was it. Okay.
But actually, I remember at the time, this book was kind of like lots of people were sort of talking about it and stuff.
I kind of remember having heard it being mentioned. Yeah.
So normally when I do these things, like if it's a movie, I'll bring up the Wikipedia page and I'll read the quick summary of it and then talk about it. There was no Wikipedia page for this book. And the sort of Amazon listing was sort of like lame. So I have, as you just suggested a few minutes ago, that I may
AI.
I asked ChatGPT to give me a 2-paragraph summary of this book.
Wow. And
so I'm going to read that to you, and then I will discuss my thoughts on this book.
Okay. All right.
Can I make these bigger? Okay. Big data, a revolution that will transform how we live, work, and think. It's both Amazon and this say it was 2014, but I had a 2013 date. I don't know. Maybe there's a difference between paperback and hardcover. Or maybe I put it on my list in 2013, but it wasn't actually out till 2000. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Anyway, by Victor Meyer Schoenberger and Kenneth Cukier, explores the profound shift brought about by the emergence of big data, analyzing vast amounts of information to uncover patterns and insights that were previously undetectable. The authors argue that the rise of big data is changing the way businesses, governments, and individuals make decisions, moving away from traditional small-scale analysis to focus on correlations within massive data sets. This approach allows for new predictive capabilities, even if it sometimes sacrifices understanding the why behind certain phenomena. By leveraging big data, organizations can optimize operations, forecast trends, and create more personalized services, ultimately reshaping industries. However, the book also warns of the potential risks and ethical challenges associated with big data. Meyer, Schoenberger, and Cukier, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Cukier, whatever.
Cookie Monster, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah.
Cukier. I don't know if I'm pronouncing Schoenberger either correctly. It's SCH.
Sounds good to me.
The O with the little dots over it, NBERGER.
Sounds good to me.
So, discuss issues like privacy erosion, data ownership, and the danger of blindly trusting algorithms without human oversight. They stress the importance.
I don't know. Amazing.
They stress the importance of developing legal and regulatory frameworks to manage these risks while encouraging innovation. Despite the challenges, the authors believe that big data holds immense potential to revolutionize society, though it must be approached with caution to avoid unintended negative consequences. Now, that's the summary. This was from 2014. Obviously, things have moved quite a bit since 2014. I'll say, actually, like it mentions that they talk about the risks. I actually got the feeling while reading this that the section about risks was sort of thrown in like, oh, we got to talk about the risks, but it was mostly cheerleading. It was mostly like, hey, this is going to be awesome. We can do all this stuff. And they were talking about all kinds of examples that were already at play. And while they did talk about risks, I feel like they sort of hand waved away the risks, saying, oh yeah, but we can deal with those, and I think that there are a lot of places, even before we talk about AI, which obviously this gets into, but even before you get to that, there are so many places where they were saying things like, look, we don't have to worry about every example being correct. We just have to, on average, do a good job with all of this data and have it be, and often we can get better results than looking at all the stuff individually, because you just doing sort of statistical sampling. One of the primary themes of the book is in the past, you looked at individual examples and you did statistical sampling and you did detailed analysis of the statistics and you came up with conclusions. And they're like, in the big data world, you don't have to do that sampling. You can actually look at everything. You don't have to sample. You just look at all the data and make some conclusions based on it. And then often this data is very noisy. It's often dirty data where some of it's incomplete or you don't have it, but it's still, the sheer volume of it often makes it better than your sampling anyway. I actually saw we'll undoubtedly talk about election polls later. I actually saw someone, an article. Oh man, I only scanned it. I didn't read the summary and I didn't share it. So I'm not going to be able to find it, but there's a new firm that's trying to do election forecasting. And apparently they've gotten some elections already correct with accuracy unknown in the polling world. They've forecast an election and gotten it right within a couple hundred votes.
Okay.
Not just, and their methodology, rather than polling people, is just take the census data, model little AI agents for every person in the census based on everything they can find out about that person, their demographics, their family, all of this information, and they make a little AI agent that tries to simulate being that person and predict how they're going to vote and whether they'll vote.
And whether they'll vote, because that's one of the most important things, right?
Yes, whether they'll vote, and if they vote, who they'll vote for. And apparently they've gotten some insane accuracy in some cases. And so this is an example of that kind of thing. But basically the idea is just look at everything. We've got the data now. You can just look at everything. Forget sampling and looking at this stuff.
I mean, this is something that's been going on in a whole bunch of different industries where you've got so much more data from different sources now that you can it's not about, correlation is not causation. Okay. It's
right. But one of the main arguments that this book made was correlation is not causation, but it doesn't matter. You can make decisions based on the correlation.
No, but the thing is that it's not, to me, it's not so much about correlation. I think that the thing is about how you are able to synthesize a number of data points across from different sources and to understand what is happening at a certain point in time. So, for example, I was reading about retail patterns, right? And so, you correlate weather, you correlate temperature, you correlate how many people are coming in, what areas they are buying, the demographics of that person, and you correlate those a certain time. And there is a whole bunch of data that then allows you to predict what purchase patterns are going to happen on certain days and why and what products are going to sell more and which less. Man, same thing. I mentioned this a couple of times with the airlines, for example, that have
one of the oh yeah, they had a bunch of airline examples in this book. They had a whole bunch of other, but like one of the key elements in that is the prediction doesn't have to be exact. Like you can say that this thing is going to be rising and that you can take action on that, and it can be a probabilistic forecast. And that is still something that's actionable. Yeah, and you can get it out of all this data. And so,
I mean, but there are things that correlate that do have effects. So don't get me wrong. Yeah. It's not that. It's just that you can't automatically assume that. You have to go and double check that that the relationship there is a causal relationship, and that happens.
But again, one of the things in this book that they tried to argue, and I'm not sure I 100% buy it. I found myself a lot of times saying, come on, guys, is that basically they were saying, look, proving causation is just too damn hard. So don't even try. If you've got the correlation, go on it.
No, that's bullshit. No, that's ridiculous. And it's not that you have to prove it.
It's not even that it's hard. It's that what they were arguing is it doesn't matter. You can take the action anyway.
Because there's been so many times that I've seen people do stupid correlations on shit. Okay, I mean, bullshit. I've seen this so over and over and over. I mean, where you get these dumb correlations that make that you think work, but it's just then all of a sudden something breaks it like badly, and then you realize, they really weren't connected, huh? You have to go through a lot of modeling and a lot of testing to make sure that data pattern, the way that it's happening, is related, and it's not just it's not just a coincidence. So I don't think
so. There's a famous website called Spurious Correlations. If you Google Spurious Correlations, you'll find it. It lets you pick like random things, and it just finds things that have been correlated that aren't real. So I just hit the random button. So here's an example. From 2004 to 2022, the consumption of butter correlates to the amount of wind power generated in Lithuania very strongly. Yeah. Okay. Viewing here's another one. The popularity of the dumb ways to die meme correlates very strongly from 2006 all the way to 2022 with the number of electronics engineers in the state of Utah.
Okay.
One more. From 2002 to 2022, the number of public students in 9th grade, from the National Center of Education Statistics, correlates. I'm looking at the graph. They line up like nearly perfectly with the stock price of Bank of America.
And
now you could take this and be like, okay, so let me do some demographic projections on the number of students that are going to be in 9th grade the next few years. And based on that, decide how much Bank of America
is going to be worth. Yeah. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Strategy. Okay. All right. Look, so anyway, so all right. What are you going to give this book? What's
the point?
Your rating?
Let me finish. Let me finish a couple thoughts.
Okay.
A couple more thoughts. Sorry. Throughout this whole thing, of course, this was like 10 years ago. The parallels to what's currently going on with AI development were obvious.
Sure.
The AI development, especially LLMs, are just taking this to the next level. They're sucking up huge amounts of data. They've got complicated algorithms trying to pop out conclusions for that. I summarized the damn book with an AI at the beginning of this. And even more sophisticated, or I shouldn't say more sophisticated, even different models that aren't LLM based also are just, they feed on the massive amounts of data in order to make their conclusions. And I think the same thing is true here, where I think there's still the underestimation of the problems. It in both of these cases, both 10 years ago and now with AI, it's like everybody's so excited about the thing and willing to run with it that there's the amount of just pause and slow down a little bit to make sure what you're doing makes sense and isn't harmful is for the most part getting thrown by the wayside. And maybe we'll get lucky and there's nothing really horrible is going to come of it and it's all going to be wonderful. I mean, I'm at this point using various AI tools on a regular basis for one thing or another. And they are saving me tons of time and they're useful. But, I don't know. I feel like it's just the main thing about this book, and I think about a lot of the AI talk right now, is there is so much cheerleading about how wonderful this is. And yeah, the skeptics are definitely making noise too, just to be clear. But the industry as a whole seems to just be like, full speed ahead. This is a gold mine. Let's go.
Why is that, Sam? Why is it?
Because it is undoubtedly true that there are going to be people making fortunes off this shit. Now it may well crash after that. But in the meantime,
hey, but once you cash,
there are people who
are, you can be the next Mark Cuban.
Exactly. Like, for all of these things, I mean, the same thing has been said about a whole bunch of different phases of things. Like the most recent before this was crypto, where everybody was like, oh, everything has to be crypto. Let's jump in with crypto on 2 feet. And that is mostly faded out at this point. Let's see if it comes back. But most of the hype around that is like in hibernation, at least at the moment.
I mean, crypto is still around, but it's not.
Oh no, I know.
I mean,
I know.
And one of the things, and the biggest problem is that crypto has not proven to be
actually useful.
Well, it's not an easily transactable medium of exchange. It's number one.
Right.
And then the other thing is that one of the things that they were trying to, but some people, the idea was, oh, it's anonymous, it's private, it's not centralized. And actually, here's the reality: it isn't at all.
Yeah, because everything is stored in a public form that people can analyze.
Access. That's right.
Well, and the thing is, like, and there's always leakage that can tie you back. Like the FBI has now gotten really good at figuring out who actually owns various wallets on blockchains and stuff like that.
Yeah, and so that's perfect, why. That whole anonymity thing is all bullshit.
But my point is, I used crypto as one example, but you have these hype cycles every few years where some new technology is going to be the big new thing, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it's a bubble, sometimes it's not. I mean, and even like going back to the original internet bubble, right? Like that initial bubble popped, but at this point, the entire damn world is built on that. Anybody
gonna question the value of a lot of the stuff? I mean, look, we talk about delivery of merchandise and whatever, and one of the biggest flameouts that happened at that time was Webvan. Which they're investing billions in warehouses and they never were able to monetize it and whatever. What a mistake. That shit was never going to work. Well, I mean, yeah.
Well, now look. Yeah. I mean, and
nobody can live without their delivery of anything. I mean,
a common phenomena in these cycles, going back, hell, all the way to railroads and stuff, probably even earlier, is that the first movers actually don't automatically. They're not the winners. They build out a bunch of infrastructure and go bankrupt, and then the people who come in the second wave and can build off of that, they're the ones who end up being the big money makers who become monopolies and all this kind of stuff.
I still remember one of the greatest examples of that was in Latin America during the 90s. There was this huge investment surge by telecoms across Latin America.
Yeah, and I remember you using this example before.
And they invested heavily in whatever. And man, I mean, there was this massive bankrupt flame out. You had Global Crossing, Optiglobe, there was Bell South, Latin America. All of these companies sold everything for pennies on the dollar. And Carlos Slim in Mexico scooped them up all on pennies of the dollar. And right now, Carlos Slim is one of the top 10 richest people in the world.
Right. And so, anyway, to the rating on the book, I'm actually going to give it a thumbs up, even though it's like a decade old, because it's thought-provoking, and it has the interesting dual nature where on the one hand, they're talking about examples where you know what's happened because it's like 10 years of history have gone past that. So, like in some cases where they're being very optimistic about what's going to happen and oh, well, that flamed out. That didn't actually work out because of XYZ, whereas these other things did work out. And meanwhile, the parallelism to what is now going on with AI is completely obvious because AI is just taking the same big data mindset and moving it to yet another new level. So I'm giving it a thumbs up. Like it's interesting because you get that history, you see what they're talking about and know what they got wrong and right, but also it is still relevant to this new cycle of stuff that's going on right now. So thumbs up. It was I liked it. I enjoyed the book. It was worth the read. I should mention, as usual, like this is one of the things that. Oh, and by the way, I read this out loud to Alex, like I do with all my books now, and only occasionally, every once in a while, reading for like half an hour, but not on an everyday basis or anything. And so this book, which was 244 pages long, took me 271 days to read. So 0.9 pages per day was the rate at which this book was read.
Well, there you go.
So
there you go.
And I will also say, like, sometimes when reading books that are nonfiction, like to myself, I can find myself like reading a couple pages and then going back and saying like, what was that again? I have to go back because my mind started to drift and I was still reading. Reading things out loud, every word actually like helps you stay paying attention to what the hell you're reading.
That's very slow though.
God. It is. Also, even that I will add one thing. My son is like the mini version of me and insists on being a completist, which means we also read every word of the bibliography, index, and footnotes.
Oh, fuck you guys. Fuck all of you. Jesus fucking Christ. God damn. Jesus. Fuck.
Every word out loud, reading the bibliography and the citation of like such and such book, page 46 through 47.
I recognize the pattern.
Okay, let's take a break and then talk newsy stuff. This is another Apple Dream.
Oh,
this is Apple Dream 41. It is a little bit long. It is it's like 3.5 minutes. So just a heads up warning for those of you who don't like them, you can fast forward. Yvonne is going to have to suffer through it. So here we go. I'm hitting play. Hold on. I hit the button. Wait. Oh, maybe I had this button. Okay, I don't like this dream at all. Myself, Alex, Brandy, and our dog Jetski were going to a park. And we were gonna, it was more a park with like a lot of walking areas than like playgrounds and stuff. But we turned a corner and I saw a bear. It was a black bear. So I'm like, bear, bear, bear. And I'm motioning for everybody to turn around. And we all turn around. And as we turn around, a much bigger, like grizzly bear kind goes running by. Now there was like a little fence between us and where the grizzly bear was, but it was one of those like wooden slat fence, not slat. You know, where they put the little pieces of wood like next to each other and little things. Anyway, the kinds you could get through easily. Like you could jump over it or somebody could get through it. And we were heading back to the car and trying to like, the bear is still a little bit of ways. And then we're like, where's Jetski? And then we see like two bears off in the distance tossing something. And we're like, oh no, Jetski got between the two bears. And we make some loud noises and the bears run away, but we go to get Jetski and his whole back half isn't working right. He's still alive though. And so then we're like rushing to get him back into the car. Like I pick him up and I'm like trying to take him back to the car. Like I'm like, I don't know if I'm supposed to move him, but I have no choice. And I was picking him up and, my wife was on the phone trying to figure out the right place to take him and whether our pet insurance would cover like being mauled by a bear. And Jetski was still breathing but felt like he weighed like 2 pounds and he's a 150-pound dog. And we get him to the car and we're trying to get him into the car, and someone who was in the way getting in the car, and I yelled at them and I apologized for yelling at them and was like, but my dog. And as I think Brandy was finding out that this kind of thing was not covered by insurance, so we'd have to figure out the money things. And it wasn't clear to me if Jetski was going to make it, but he was struggling. Like he fought against me. He didn't want to get into the car. I guess he wanted to go back to the bears or something. Anyway, I was very upset, very worried. This was not a good dream. And then I woke up and it was one of those where I was very, very relieved to discover that this was a dream and it was not really happening. So, yeah. I'm gonna go find my dog. Well, no. He's asleep downstairs somewhere. I'm gonna leave him alone. I'm gonna go back to sleep in a second. Bye. And that's it.
Recently, I had a dream for some reason that my wife and I were in hand-to-hand combat with ninjas.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And by the way, but by the way, at least we were kicking the ninjas' ass.
Oh, good job. Good job.
We were repelling the ninjas. And I woke up and I'm like, okay, honey, hey, apparently we're under ninja attack. Apparently we're going to kick their asses.
Good job. I mean, it's your training has paid off.
The training has paid off. Yes, absolutely. So anyway, I don't know what that means, but anyway. All right. So on to the things. Let's see. What do we want to cover first?
It's your pick first. I can do the traditional, like I'm doing all the election stuff in my segment if you want to cover other stuff now. So or shake it up. You can do election stuff. I don't know. Whatever.
Now let me see. I'm looking at what we've got here. Well, I had made some notes. So we've got Hurricane Helene.
Yes.
So, one thing that I didn't realize about this hurricane, and that was a discussion about this, and the storm was very large in terms of the wind area that was covered. It's not that it doesn't happen, but most hurricanes, usually the wind field itself is relatively small. So it only affects a pretty relatively narrow band around the storm. But in this case, I mean, the winds several hundred miles away were tropical storm winds. This is a very big storm. And it caused a lot of storm surge all across the west coast of Florida. And actually some difficult weather conditions, even in the east coast of Florida. The airports were impacted with a lot of delays and difficulties. The winds and the strength of the winds was pretty stiff. And the thing is that you had pretty strong steady winds, but you had very strong gusts. Okay. And coming from the south, most of the runways at airports in the Florida East Coast, whether it's Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, or Miami International Airport, have east to west running runways. Okay.
Okay.
Except Miami, that does have a crossing runway. Okay. There is a lot of videos online of airplanes trying to land with what were crosswinds at about the maximum, close to, the maximum crosswind that you're allowed to land.
Right.
Struggling to do so. Okay. And a lot of flights got canceled. And Miami Airport did not gamble with that and was just using the crossing runway, which made the crosswind vector lower, but it limited then that you had an airport that normally operates with 3 runways down to 1 for both takeoffs and landings. Okay. I saw some bigger airplanes say, fuck it, we're going to do it. So I did see that an A380 landed on the east-west runway, and they were like, the crosswind, fuck it. The Lufthansa was like, you know what, this beast will do it. Whatever. We're putting this thing down. But I happened to have been flying back yesterday from Puerto Rico, and it made it that it took an approach to Miami. Once we're in sight of the airport, you'll be touching down in like 10 minutes max. Mm-hmm. All right. We spent about almost 50 minutes to land because since they were only using 1 runway, they had to make this massive line of airplanes that was stretching all the way to Central Florida in order to make them, line them up. You have to, it's like, listen, you have to go to the back of the line. Well, the back of the line kept getting longer and longer and longer and longer and longer at the airport. I kept going, and I'm like, how fucking far are we going away, for God's sakes? And yeah, it was like the furthest away I've ever started an approach into Miami International Airport ever in my life. And I will say this again, also, that was one of the bumpiest fucking landings I've ever made at Miami International Airport in my life. Because even with the fact that we went up, we were runway 12, the winds were coming from 180, 190 around there. That was still a strong fucking crosswind that was gusting up to 40, 50 knots. And that was a ride. To get in. People on the plane were a little bit unnerved. The landing was hard. Okay. And so that was going on. In the west coast of Florida, the storm surge from the storm.
Yeah, let's talk about the actual storm. Like, enough about your plane stuff. Like, those were fine.
Yeah. In the end, it was fine. But there was obviously a lot of people. But that was that was your personal experience of the. But the thing is that this was like hundreds and hundreds of miles away. Usually, When it's that far away, it doesn't fucking matter.
Right.
And this thing was so far away, and we're getting the effects of this thing. And I was like, holy shit, what the hell? But man, the storm surge was brutal that they had all across the west coast of Florida, a lot of different places. And, this is the third major hurricane that has hit the panhandle in the last 13 months.
Right.
Okay.
And this was by far the biggest of the three.
Yeah. And I mean, it's three of them. And one of the damn things about the panhandle and that area in northern Florida, which always just made me nervous. And I said, I'm never fucking buying a house in this area, because even like newer houses there are not built to withstand even a cat 2 hurricane. Okay?
And this is one, like, you can understand maybe for like something built a long time ago, but new construction, come on, there's no excuse.
No, and there is no excuse. I went to I had some friends or neighbors that moved to Jacksonville. They bought a new house over there. They moved up there because, to be fair, it was a lot more affordable than down here, and I get that. And the house is beautiful, but then I realized I'm looking at the fucking house. It's all wood. All the walls, it's just it's a concrete slab at the bottom, and the fucking structure is all wood. And I'm like, fuck this thing in a Cat 3, Cat 4 hurricane. It's like, say bye-bye to this fucker.
Mm-hmm.
It's not surviving. This is a new construction in the last 3 or 4 years. And so I'm like, what the fuck is with this shit? And so, they were showing videos of these communities that got wiped out, and you see that every single fucking house, was not elevated to accommodate for storm surge, was made out of materials that basically, like, the big bad wolf could have blown them down. And I'm just like, what the hell, people? It's just, I mean, it's like, I don't, and I know that a lot of those historically have been there for a long time. People, anything about it, but I just always felt it's like, I mean, look, you've had so many big hurricanes hit that area, and I'm just like, now there is a stat recently I saw that in Florida right now of residences, and a lot of these I assume are paid for because there are a number of these. 25% of homes right now are completely uninsured. Okay,
that's crazy.
Yeah, they're completely uninsured. So they basically, they are running the risk that if they get hit by a hurricane, they are, they're not going to have, and I mean, they're not going to have the resources to rebuild at all. Or
anything.
Or
like,
anything.
It's not just a hurricane. Like, there are all kinds of things that could happen.
A fire, absolutely. There's a lot of other things that could happen that would wind up, leaving them homeless. Yes, absolutely. So I this state has been suffering through a series of issues related to insurance. The governor basically has just not really done anything about it. The governor, obviously, right yesterday, I see him. I don't understand what, there's another narcissist jerk off. Who the fuck wears a shirt with their name on it? Like, and you're not even running for campaign right now. He was like with a sweater vest that had his name like printed in big DeSantis, like here. Okay, like on his chest.
I'm sorry. To be fair, I have seen, like, I've seen, like,
who? I mean, he's not running for re-election right now, Sam. He's not running for president. Not running for re-election. It's not like
is it more like it's more like a name tag, right?
No,
like
it's embroidered.
I know it's embroidered, but it serves that function, right?
No, I don't think so. No. I don't think so.
I know all my clothes say Sam.
Actually, that would look nice. I get you a nice little, get a nice little sweater that says Sam.
Or my logo, my little Abelsmay logo.
I
can just get that on all my clothes.
Yeah, that's another one. I mean, I get it.
I mean, those of you listening cannot see right now, but Yvonne is currently wearing something with all kinds of corporate logos all over his shirt.
Yes, yes, I am. Yes, I am.
It's who's paying for him.
Yeah, so these are my corporate sponsors right now. They're paying the bills. Yes, absolutely. Yes. I got UBS Securities, CrowdStrike, of course, CrowdStrike. They're paying for. I mean, we had the tapes, so they basically had to pay us. On how they screwed everybody. So anyway, the thing is that this bastard is going out there just doing some more self-promotion. I guess maybe he's gonna think that he's gonna battle take Marco Rubio's Senate seat or some shit like this. I don't know. Who the hell knows? Maybe. And he hasn't done anything about the fucking insurance issue. He keeps talking about climate change doesn't exist. Yeah, blah blah blah. Then he talks about resilience. He gives some money, but it's just that this guy he builds up straw man. He fights against them, but he doesn't fix anything. And the insurance issue has been one that has, dragged on and on. It's not fixed. Our premiums here are up 300%. In the last 5-6 years.
And part of this, we haven't said the words yet, but there's a climate change component here.
Yes, and that's what I was saying. Yeah, he's ignoring the whole climate change. Yeah,
storms are getting bigger. They're getting more frequent. Not every year. It's all statistical. But
here's the thing: we haven't gotten hit with them down here in South Florida. But
right.
But the reality is that down here we're way better prepared than they are up there. Okay. And unfortunately, the guys that are getting hammered with 3 of them in the last 15 months, there's a place that's way the less prepared, and the one that least believes in this being real. I mean, that's the problem.
And the thing is, without interventions of some sort, it is very possible that certain areas, it just doesn't make sense to rebuild. And so insurance companies aren't going to want to voluntarily do business there, because it's we're not going to make our money back, because of course this is going to get screwed up again sooner rather than later. Right.
Well, it's what I was mentioning earlier about the guy in California that because of the wildfires decided to just not rebuild.
Yeah. Yeah.
The mitigation that he had to do in order to ensure that he wouldn't get damaged again that way was so much. And part of the reason why the hotel I was staying is still only half an operation is because of how much work that will take in order to do it. They're planning on doing it, but it's been 4 years of work and they're still not there yet. So that is a big issue. And over here, you're just not getting, in a lot of places, that stuff done. It's just not happening. This government isn't putting a focus on that or a priority, because one of the things that you would have done already, if you really took this seriously, was upgrade the building codes.
Right.
You wouldn't allow those damn new houses that are being built, out of
Yvonne, regulation is bad.
Yes, that's the problem. Regulation is bad. Yes. All regulation is bad.
No, but yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's one of those things where you have to make a decision at some point that says, either you take vast swaths of land and say, this is not actually inhabitable.
Yeah,
you can't live here. Maybe you could visit, make it a national park or something, but you're not going to build houses and stores and all this kind of stuff in there. Or you put requirements in place that say, if you're going to build here, you're going to build in a way that will survive any reasonably expectable event that might happen here. And this goes for other parts of the country too. Yeah, I mean, where you are, it's like hurricanes and stuff like that. In other places, it's the wildfires. In other places, it's earthquakes. In other places, it's landslides, whatever. But, just saying like, hey, there are dangers in this spot. If you're going to build here, you have to account for them.
Right. And if you're going to build there, and despite the fact that we said no build, well, then you know what? You get destroyed. You're shit out of luck. You're getting nothing. I mean, forget it. I'm sorry, but we just can't.
The problem is,
if they build new, what I'm saying is that after a disaster. I mean, I get that certain people, I've lived in some places that right now are at risk.
There's a difference. Years. Yeah, there's a difference between historical things and new construction. But even then, there's also the flip side of that, right? Like if you make new construction more expensive, then you're pricing certain people out of the market. And then what do those people do?
The thing is that there are construction methods in order to build these, that are more resilient, that don't add that much to the cost. But, especially when you're talking about, man, we're not talking about $100,000 houses. We're talking about houses worth $450,000. Look, bullshit.
Well, but you have to also talk about the apartment buildings and things like that. And maybe you shouldn't have trailer parks at all, but like if you're going to build an apartment.
Listen, I've said that. I'm sorry that all of those should be outlawed. I mean, in the state of Florida. I mean, you cannot have those as permanent residences. Well, shit, we got people trying to ride out storms, and every fucking time we get a storm, they try to ride them out on fucking sailboats, man. And then all we do is fucking pick up the body, fish the bodies of these fucking people out of Biscayne Bay. Okay, it's just stupid. It's just stupid. There's suicide boxes. You can outride a major storm out in a fucking sailboat.
Right. And you end up in a situation, by the way, like, when you are giving everybody evacuate, everybody get out, this is going to be an unsurvivable situation. If you don't also provide the support to actually get all of those people out there, there are all kinds of people who have situations
that don't financially,
they don't have the resources to get out, or even if they do, like grandma doesn't, and they can't take grandma or the systems in place don't let them take their pets or whatever. There's all kinds of things that make it hard. And, I don't know. There are ways to be prepared and ways to be resilient to these kinds of things. But hey, part of fixing these problems is indeed, you have to provide the support. So even your poorest people can live somewhere that's safe.
But I think also, I've been used to living with this since I was a child. Okay. I remember the first hurricanes that we had to prepare for when I was little, that were massive storms, that most of them missed us. But when I was a freshman in college, Hurricane Hugo hit Puerto Rico. Hurricane Hugo was a Category 3, Category 4 storm. I mean, I remember that I couldn't talk to my parents for weeks. I had no idea how they were. The phones died right as the storm approached, and I didn't know anything for 2 weeks. So I've lived with this, but I don't get, like, the storms themselves. They don't scare me because I've lived with this my entire life. It's just one of those things that Mother Nature throws at you. I mean, if you're in the Midwest, you've got tornadoes. If you're in the West Coast, you've got earthquakes, you got wildfires. There Mother Nature, no matter where the hell you are, has a way of getting you one way or another. I was thinking about the flash floods in Texas, for example, that happen whenever they get a massive rain event. The flash flooding that happens so quickly. it just overwhelms people. Like a couple of minutes before, there's nothing, and then all of a sudden, people are drowning. So it's crazy. So I just think that, to me, I see people how they are stressed and panic. I was seeing somebody in the opinion page talking about it, but they didn't grow up with this. Okay. They moved there when they were an adult. I had to deal with this as a child. Okay. And so I for some reason, my mentality is, look, with a hurricane, my feeling is I know it's coming. I can prepare. And in my family, we take preparation seriously. I know so many people that don't, and then wind up, in terrible situations. But the key to all of this, and like why my parents, maybe there were 2 weeks incommunicado, but you know what? We had generators, we had water stored, they had whatever, they had electricity, they had satellite. And listen, they had everything. The only thing they couldn't do was call out, but they had everything, and because they were prepared. And that's the one thing that people just, I don't know, they don't think in advance about it. Like I was explaining, we haven't had a hurricane threat yet this season, but I've got a whole bunch of massive water bottles stored in our laundry room. Right. I have them there. They're already there. I have a gas stove in the garage ready to go. I got coolers to store stuff ready to go. Yeah. I've got this shit. It's ready. Okay. I don't have to start from scratch to get prepared for a damn storm. But you see so many people that all of a sudden they see a storm bearing down, and then all of a sudden they're freaking out trying to prepare for this thing. Okay. And, it's just always, to me, it's wild. Okay. It's wild that they just have not taken 1 second to prepare. So I always, they say this right before a hurricane season starts. Hey, get prepared to do whatever, blah, blah, blah. Man, 90% of the people don't do shit.
Well, yeah, a lot of it is just not, no motivation. But again, I keep coming back to, there are also people who, being prepared takes money.
Some is cheap. I mean, what?
I know.
How much? Listen, you think like
I know.
I got 5 massive jugs of water in my thing. What do you think? $10.
I know, but for some people, $10 is a big deal. But
okay,
but
fair
yeah,
enough.
Yeah,
it's a good point.
But yeah, like this is one of those things where, first of all, yes, people have to be more aware. People have to actually take these things seriously, but also you have to assume that lots of people won't, and so therefore state and local governments need to be ready to take up the slack.
And that's where the government of the state of Florida, especially, I will say that more so than ever under this governor, has not taken their job with this shit seriously. Because I will say that we had a number of Republican governors before, and they took this way more seriously than this damn clown. This guy is definitely the worst fucking governor.
And of course,
a long time.
I said state and local, but of course the feds have FEMA. The Red Cross, as a private organization, does a lot of stuff. There are all sorts of things out there, but like there's having all of them up and running and prepared and making sure they know what they're doing is important. And like you're saying, it does matter. Like if you've got somebody who doesn't take it seriously and says, well, we'll deal with that when it happens, then you're just asking for it.
Yeah, and that's the reality. So anyway, a lot of people got thankfully, the one thing, at least, thankfully, about where it went, the storm, like right now through Florida, is that is one of the least. We had the storm surge, and it was it was damaged, but it's not. Well, that is still one of the least populated areas of the state. Thank God. Okay, and thankfully it veered off further east of Atlanta. It didn't actually go directly to Atlanta. I can report that I spoke to Kathy, and she told me that they had a lot of down trees.
A mutual friend of ours who lives near Atlanta.
So it's on the Slack usually. I don't know. I don't think she listens to the show, but she for some reason somehow got on the Slack. I don't know. But anyway, but she said that they had power flicker in and out. They had a lot of trees falling. There was flooding, that kind of stuff. But thankfully nothing more than that. But the power was still on, even though it had flickered on and off several times during the evening. So.
Yeah, but as usual with these things, there's lots of places without power. There's lots of places without internet. Lots of places where cell service is gone. You mentioned like the hurricane when you were younger, where you couldn't get a hold of your parents for weeks.
Yeah.
There are lots of people that don't have communications right now at this very second. And we'll see how long it takes it to get everything restored.
Currently, right now, based on the storm, there is this really cool website called poweroutage.us. Okay. And it shows
check it out.
It shows the details of a number of customers without power right now. So Florida has about 500,000 customers without power. But the number one right now that got really hammered, South Carolina, 1.1 million customers without power. Georgia has 800,000. North Carolina.
And by the way, South Carolina wasn't even one that it's like this was in Florida. Where's South Carolina come in?
Yeah.
You got West Virginia, Tennessee, Illinois, for God's sake.
Because the weather system really went into Tennessee and all of these places. It was crazy. Okay,
I noticed looking at this website. There's some power outages in California too, but I think they're probably unrelated.
I don't think that those are related. Those are not related. Yeah. So, but you've got. I mean, basically, Florida out of it isn't hell. Ohio had 250,000 people without power because of this. So, Ohio has half the people out of power than Florida now. It's because it hit area less population, but I will say also because because of how power, the resilience has been built into some of the electrical grid in Florida because we've been hit by so many storms. So, so that also is a factor. So, but anyway, that's my report. Hurricane.
Okay, done with the hurricane. We'll take a break in just 1 second, and then we will talk election and politics and all of that kind of stuff. Let's see, which break am I supposed to play now? Which one? This one. We will be back after this. What? No, that was bad. Oh, no, that was bad. No, I don't like that either. Once upon a rainbow, you were on the floor, eating the bugs that you found upon my face. No, that's what? Bye. Okay, that's that. So before we get into other stuff, I will mention that while Yvonne was talking about the hurricane, we had a breaking news alert that North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, who we talked about, he's the one who was posting on the porn site about being a black Nazi last week, has been hospitalized after an incident at a campaign event. There's not really a lot of detail on that. I've been looking while Yvonne was talking for news stories. There are a bunch of news stories on a bunch of sites, so this has been confirmed, but nobody's really got any detail yet as of the time that we are recording in terms of what the incident is, what his condition is, etc. But something happened.
Oh well, couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
So I don't know if he had like a health issue or somebody attacked him or what. Like this is literally breaking news. By the time you listen to this, you'll know what happened and if it ended up being serious or not. Wait, treated for burns.
What? Burns?
Burns. is currently being treated for burns after the incident. He's in good spirit. Did somebody throw some hot coffee on him or something? I don't know. Anyway, like, obviously we don't know. By the time you listen to this, you'll probably know what happened, and I guess he's going to recover. So, but I don't know. Weird. Okay. So as usual, I will start with my election graphs update just to see where things are. And I will note, at the moment that we are recording, there are like 2 or 3 polls that have come out in the last few hours that I have not had a chance to enter in yet, but I don't think they're anything that significantly changes the picture. And the picture is actually pretty damn static from where it's been the last few weeks. Harris's position is actually a little bit better than it was last time we talked, I think. Well, it depends on the metric. But look, the bottom line is we still have all of these damn states that are really, really close. And so the range of reasonable possibilities goes from a fairly healthy Trump win to a fairly healthy Harris win. You might even call it landslides on each side. Although landslide to me still means like Ronald Reagan style landslide.
Well,
and it's
landslide to me is like that Harris Vance poll that's out there at like plus 21.
Yeah, I noted on the Curmudgeon's Corner Slack right before we started recording that. Or a little bit before we start recording, somebody actually polled Harris versus Vance instead of Harris versus Trump. And Harris versus Trump was ahead by a few percent. Harris versus Vance was ahead by like 21%. It was crazy. But the bottom line is we still have, all of these super close states in the polls. And I did want to make the distinction between like toss up, which is where we are. Like, if you want to predict this, it's a toss up. You could get a Harris win, you could get a Trump win, versus close. Like, it's not necessarily predicting that the actual result on election night will be super, super close. It might be. It might be super, super close.
It could be all over the place.
It could be all over the place. Here's the thing. Like I said, it is not unreasonable to have, given what we know and given the uncertainty, especially in the damn electoral college, where, all of these close states, if you add them up, are a huge number of electoral votes. So we just don't know is the answer. It's not that, oh my God, this is going to be super, super close on election night and every single one of these states will be waiting days and weeks for the count and the recount and it might happen that way, but it also could easily happen that, hey, we've got the polls are underestimating Harris systematically by 2 or 3%, in which case she wins by a landslide. Or they could be underestimating Trump again by 2 or 3%, in which case he wins by a damn healthy margin. It's not that it's necessarily this is going to be super, super close. It's just we don't know. We do not have the precision of information to know at this point.
Listen, I know that the averages, especially one of the things about the averages, is that we have only been tracking Harris versus Trump for really a relatively short time. Okay, it's been only a couple of months.
Yeah.
This has really been tracked. But there is an interesting thing that I've seen about recent polling.
Yes.
It's the number of polls that show Harris ahead by 5 points or more in the national.
There have been more. Well, and I will say, let me say this. This is important. Wait. Let me say this. This is important. Popular vote wise, I think I would be shocked if Harris loses the popular vote. Like, that one is not close. that one is not like margin of error. Like
but
she's
I
significantly
get
ahead
that,
of popular
but
vote.
the thing is, but beyond that, one of the things, because we know that state polls always lag the national polls, okay, and the one thing is that, look, the bigger the margin you have on the national polls, the likelier is that that you're going to be able to pull a number of states that are closer into your orbit. It's just we don't have the data yet, because obviously it takes a lot longer. It's just the fact that in recent weeks, whereas in August, how many polls had her ahead by more than 4 points? It was like almost none. But still, it's been a lot. I mean, it's not just been
there've been a lot of them, and we talked last week too that, like, what the hell is, like, are the polling averages doing? Because, like, right now right now 538 has the polling average at Harris plus 2.8%. But if you look at the recent polls, plus 3, plus 6, plus 6, plus 2, plus 5, plus 7, plus 4, 5, 5, 3, 3, 7, 3, 6, 6. How the hell do you get 2.8 out of that?
I don't know. I don't get it. But I mean, literally,
I know that, and I actually know the answer to that. I know the answer to that, and they say it right there on their website, is it's not actually an average of those polls. They're factoring in some fundamentals. They're factoring in state polls as well. They're doing some nonsense with it, but it means it's not the average. Now, RCP theoretically is a straight average, but they still have Harris up by 2.0.
The one that has moved much further away, because I know that Decision Desk with the Hill does do more of an average. They have Harris up to a 4.2. Like right now.
They also, I looked into their methodology statement. They also do a lot of fundamentals, just differently.
But they have Harris at the highest margin that she's had, period, since we've been tracking this, at 4.2. If she has in their average, she has definitely opened up. The lead is the biggest it has been since Biden dropped out.
What I will say again is, like, I don't think there's any question in popular vote. I would be shocked if Harris loses the popular vote.
Well, I'm more talking.
Let me say, like, you talk about the state polls lagging, and that's true. That's less true now that we're in the home stretch in the last few weeks, because the volume of state polls in the close states is now massive. Like, with my 5 poll averages, most of my 5 poll averages at this point are only taken about a week of the last week of polls, right? And the thing is, it's not that, it's that there's a lot of, like, if I had to say, like, if I look at the whole race overall, what I would say is there's actually a bunch of, I'm looking at my tipping point graph, and there's a lot of motion up and down in it, but I actually think most of that motion is not real. Most of that motion is just pollsters coming in and out, coming into the various states. And the real situation is that after we had that big move towards Harris when she first started, since then, we've been really bouncing around in a range with Harris ahead between 0 and 2%. But, like, but it's just bouncing in that range. It's not like, I don't think there's real motion of that's been very significant. And that sort of ties in with what we're seeing in the national averages too, which is she's ahead by a decent margin, but at least in, like, again, like, 538 is doing some magic. I think you're absolutely right. She's increasing that margin nationally, but it's unclear to me, like, is she running up the score in blue states as opposed to making the moves that she needs in the swing states?
Let's be clear, to be fair, those national polls aren't just they're trying to do in a national picture what we're looking at state by state. Okay.
Well, No,
they're not just.
There's differences. Like the national poll averages are trying to predict the popular vote. Period. End of story. The forecasts that these sites build off them are trying to do the electoral college. But like when you look at national poll averages, no, they're predicting popular vote. They are not predicting the election outcome.
Well, I really
now what happens though is like, except in really close scenarios, those follow each other. Like usually we've had 2 examples recently in our lifetimes where the popular vote and electoral college went different ways, but that's actually pretty rare. Like usually the winner of the popular vote wins the electoral college too. It's just that we've had a particular configuration recently where if the popular vote margin is less than a couple percent, it could go the other way.
Well, when they're trying to build these, they're trying to find out who's going to win the election. Okay.
Well, that's a distinction. All of these places, 538, DDHQ, all of these places, they have election models that try to do what you're doing, but that is not the poll average. The national poll average is the national poll average. It's popular vote. Their model is different.
No, I'm not talking about the national poll average. I'm talking about, say you're Bloomberg. You're doing state by state poll and you're doing a national poll. Okay. All right. You're trying to model that to try to tell you who's going to win the election. We're not doing a model. They're not doing it just, they're not going let's
national.
weigh it.
The models that are built on top of the polls do what you're talking about. The national polls are looking for the popular vote. End of story. The things that are trying to predict who wins are the models that are built off that. Like 535. No, like a national poll is meant to predict the national popular vote. End of story.
Listen,
the electoral models, these guys do something different.
Like 20 years ago, we didn't do this shit with these fucking models and each state and any of this shit. Back then, honestly, we only relied on these
that's because before 2000, the last time the electoral college and the popular vote went in different directions was in the early 1800s. So no one thought it was going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
So like the reason we had this outburst of, oh crap, we have to pay attention state by state is because of the year 2000 and then 2016. Like both of those years are where they went other directions. And that's where people realized, hey, actually, we're in a universe where the popular vote winner can lose the electoral college. So we have to pay attention on a state by state basis.
All right. So you're trying to, I pulled up the methodology of the Bloomberg poll. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, that's not what this says. I could read the whole blurb. That's not what this says.
Send me the URL.
They're trying to go. Our 2020 turnout forecast are generated by a series of predictive models built in historic turnout patterns.
Wait. That's not a poll. That's what you said. It's a forecast model. That's different.
No. This is no. This is okay. This is the election model. Okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
This is on the model. Hang on. Where is Bloomberg's national poll? Here we go. Okay, sorry, because I did pull up the model. They got too much shit going on over here.
See, it's just that these are two different things. If you want to, where they are doing a forecast of the election, that's when you take into account the electoral structure. But if you're doing a national poll, you're doing a national poll. You're seeing where people are going to vote on a nationwide basis, and that's why, like, we don't usually want to pay attention to those national polls because they don't tell you who's going to win. They tell you who's going to win the popular vote, but that doesn't matter.
I mean,
that's the whole reason all of these sites, including Bloomberg, have forecast models.
Well, we went to the fucking forecast models because we really went out, because of what's happened. But let's be clear about this. Most of those, okay, when you look at it, say, for example, a couple of years ago, Hillary won the popular vote by 2%, 3%, whatever the heck it was. All those were within the margin of error. The reality is that when you're looking at, if you're looking at the margins that we've had, they've been between the plus minus 4. The reality is that what we talked about, when you're looking at the national poll, is that any of those results, even if you look at the national poll, have been within the margin of error. What are the other?
Here's the thing. So, if current polling, forget the weird 538 average that has Harris only at 2.8.
Right.
If she's really at 6 or 7% nationally, then the chances of it going in a different direction than the Electoral College are really small.
Right.
If she's only at 2.5, 3%, the chances of it going the other direction are decent.
Right.
So it really depends.
Right.
Because really, it is only close elections where it could go the other way. And right now, the way the states are configured, it's really only 538 actually has a chart of their simulations for their model that shows you can see what percentage of the time Republican wins the Electoral College, but Democrat wins the popular vote, and vice versa. But really, the chances of the other way around, of Trump winning the popular vote but losing the Electoral College, is tiny at the moment. So the risk is a narrow popular vote win for Harris could fairly easily still end up with a Electoral College win for Trump. Now, that's not automatic. It's not saying if the popular vote win is narrow, she will automatically lose. It just is. It is possible. It is realistically possible that you could have a situation where if Harris's national margin is only say less than 3%, you could still get reasonable scenarios that lead to a Trump win in the Electoral College. Okay, so my overall point, though, we went off on major tangents there from my original point because we never do that here on this show. But that the overall summary of the situation is still that it's a toss-up. Within the skill that pollsters have, either outcome for the Electoral College is reasonably possible. And like I said, though, that doesn't necessarily mean it's necessarily close. Harris could still win by a really healthy margin. It's just that we don't know based on the data we have right now. And then also and this gets back to the whole, we've talked many times about all the reasons where we might think that this time around polls are underestimating the Democrat. And there's a lot you can convince yourself on that. But if you try hard, you can convince yourself the other direction too. So we'll know when we know, which way the polls are wrong.
Okay, by the way, the Reuters Ipsos poll specifically says that they are not trying to do what you said. As a matter of fact, it says the Reuters Ipsos poll is designed to be nationally representative. This can limit utility in projecting the outcome of presidential elections, but they don't mean they're not trying to do it. It just can limit the utility of it.
No, okay? It's specifically they just said what I said. It limits utility.
No. What they said is that it's not the most exact measure of it, but it doesn't say that they're not.
The reason it's not exact is because they're predicting the popular vote.
No,
that's the reason.
No, that's not what they said. As a matter of fact, you go back further in the
send me the link. Send me the link right now,
the link so you can read it. They're not trying to model they're trying to model what the fuck the outcome of the election is. They're modeling
They're modeling the outcome of the popular nationally representative sample. By definition, means they're looking at the popular vote. If they wanted to model the outcome rather than the popular vote, then they would explicitly not do a popular.
No, they do both. But the thing is that they're saying you're saying again. That this is indicative, but it's not the best predictor.
But Yvonne, by definition, if it's nationally representative, then it is not taking into account the structure of the Electoral College.
Actually,
you would have to intentionally bias it to give more weight to certain states than others, which would make it not. If they do that, then it's not a representative sample nationwide. Okay. Have you sent me the link yet?
Yes,
I'm waiting to read
general. It's on general.
It's on.
You can read it later. We could argue.
Oh no, hell no! I'm going to read it right now.
Oh God!
No way!
We're going to talk about the fact that the mayor of New York got indicted or something.
No. Wait, why is this? Because I'll continue without supporting us. Damn it. Okay. Blah blah blah. Projection of national opinion. Blah blah blah. What about registered and likely? Blah blah blah.
It further down.
It's designed to be. Yeah, this is exactly what you read. The important part. The Reuters Ipsos poll is designed to be nationally representative. That means it's looking. Yeah, it's representative of that.
What the result is going to be.
It's representative of the national voting population. Then it specifically says the reason it limits its utility is because presidential elections are decided on a state by state basis. They are not. So it's by definition of the word nationally representative. By definition means you're modeling the popular vote.
No.
Yes.
No.
If you were modeling
you're making one massive leap.
No. If you were modeling the electoral
representative means that you're trying to figure out what the hell the nation's going to do when they elect the president, not fucking figure out what a damn meaningless number that has no meaning.
No, nationally representative means you are sampling the national population and you are trying to figure out what they will do. That gives you the popular vote. If you want to predict, this is a prediction of the election outcome in terms of popular vote. They specifically say it limits the utility for the presidential election because it's state by state instead. If you want to predict the state by state,
these models by nature subjective, and pollsters take multiple factors into account by determining who to include, including respondents' self-reported level of enthusiasm to come over their past voting behavior.
That's an entirely different thing.
Those models can have flaws in their underestimate a group.
Yeah,
balance at the end, which that's basically
that's the standard. That's the standard way for determining that applies to every poll. For everything.
Anyway, let's move on. Okay, so
not until you admit you are completely wrong, Yvonne. Then we will move on. We will continue this argument until you capitulate and admit that I am right about everything and you are always wrong about everything because you don't understand anything.
Oh, that sounds great. Okay, there you go. Beautiful.
Okay, fine. We can move on. Fine. Just so long as you know.
Okay, can I ask a question? What is the sane washing thing?
Okay, sane washing. Okay, let me take a deep breath. Okay, sane washing is just the term that people have been using for what a lot of media has been doing for Donald Trump's speeches and such, where, and this depends on which media you're talking about, of course, but basically lately in a lot of Trump speeches, a lot of Trump interviews, a lot of whatever, he's been rambling incoherently a lot. And so
he doesn't even know where the fuck he is.
Right. Often.
Regularly. And so, this has happened every fucking week. I'm like, he's in Arizona. He thinks he's in Pennsylvania. He's in North Carolina. He thinks he's in Michigan. I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, Jesus.
But a lot of places, and this includes major media like Washington Post, New York Times, etc. What they try to do when they present an article about, hey, Donald Trump gave a speech, is they try to figure out, like, what the hell did he really mean? And then they frame it around that rather than talk about, like, he's being incoherent, right? And so, like, here's one example. Like, oh man, can I remember it? The education one that we talked about the other day is as an example. He was asked to talk about, how do you solve childcare, and his answer was all about tariffs, right?
Right.
There was another case where he was asked some sort of economic question, and his answer to it was we will deport millions of people, and that was his answer to the economic question. And so, but you get sometimes descriptions in the media of, like, Donald Trump presents an interesting economic plan. And it's like,
oh my God, I've seen more than one of those. I mean, I'm like, what the fuck are you guys talking? The crazy. I do agree that one of the crazy things is, and I actually believe that there is a large group of people that take this seriously. I mean, because it's not. I know that people are saying it's sane-washing, but I see all these business people, literally, like, business executives saying, well, he said he's going to do this about the taxes and the tariffs and so forth and so on. And I am like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? I mean, there is no thing that he has ever said on day like today that is going to be what he's going to carry out in 2 months.
Right. And I think this is the fundamental thing of sane washing, is it's basically, he spits out some sort of incoherent word salad. And then you have the reporters who are dealing with that just trying really, really hard to translate that into something a serious politician who knew what they were talking about might say, and then evaluate it according to that, as opposed to what he actually said. So, and what the criticism of this is, if you only were paying attention to that, then you might get an impression of Donald Trump as, oh, he's making serious economic proposals. He's doing this, he's doing that. Whereas if you actually watched him or read an exact transcript of what he said, you'd be like, what? What's he? What?
Listen. He's now hawking $100,000 watches.
Yes.
Okay. Along with a cheaper version for $599.
Right.
I did place my order.
Oh, of course. And there's new coins as well.
Oh, there's new coins.
There's new coins.
I mean, Sam, listen, you want to talk about sane washing? If any other candidate during this period of the election campaign had been hawking this many scams leading up to the election, I mean, the Republican Party would have thrown them out by now.
Yeah. Well, and also, all of these things are just potential well, they're scams, but they're potential vehicles for bribery and such too. It's like where people don't actually expect to get the benefit. They just want a way to shovel money to Donald Trump.
The most direct vehicle of bribery right now.
DJT.
Yes, 100%. You want to fucking bribe Trump? Pump up DJT stock. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. When you go in and you just shovel money in there, just buy, announce that you bought 100, whatever millions of shares. Fuck it. And you're just shoveling money in his pocket. I mean, now, speaking of DJT, I happen to think that
you
it's taking because Yes. I'm accumulating a controlling position in DJT as we speak. No, it's that as his odds of winning keep diminishing.
Yes.
Then the people that have been trying to funnel money by basically currying favor with him by buying DJT are basically saying, well, I don't, what, I just dump this shit. I mean, it's just tanking. So I might as well flee too, But
speaking of odds, I just want to say I forgot to include this on my election update. I currently give Harris odds between 50 and 60%. Like that's my range, somewhere between 50 and 60%. Election betting odds has it at 52. So right in that area too. And I saw, I think most of the people who are giving odds are in that ballpark. I think Nate Silver this time is an outlier. At least last time I looked, which was at least a week ago, he was actually still favoring Trump. But anyway, it's a toss up. Anyway, sorry, you said something about odds, so I had to say that.
No, but it's just that the all of these people have all these methods of just funneling money into his pockets by either buying his NFTs or buying his trading cards or buying the damn watches or Bibles or whatever. Not Jesus Christ. What I mean, there is this cycle of being in the middle of a fucking election, and then all of a sudden, another ad that he records where he's pawning, he's trying to pawn off some other scam product. Okay.
Yeah. And by the way, I can almost guarantee you, well, from what I've heard, that $100,000 watch isn't really the quality you would expect from $100,000 watch.
Listen, I looked at that watch. Okay. It's not worth $1,000. Okay. I mean, just from the pictures, it's, listen, I was last week with some people that were wearing some watches that were worth $100,000. Let me tell you something. Donald Trump's watch doesn't look like that one. No. Okay. So no,
they were picking the watches up at Target and just rebranding them.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, although I think that they went to some look, there are a number of I can guarantee you that watch is made in China. Okay.
But wait, what about the massive tariffs on China?
I mean, what does that matter? I think I saw a lot of the Trump hats and banner they're all made in China too. Anyway.
Yeah.
So like that fucking matters. But I that China does make a lot of knockoffs. Okay, I mean, you go over there and they do make some decent ones, but it's just it is one shitty looking watch. I mean. Okay.
Real quick, we're over our target time, so I just want to blow through a couple things real quick just to get them mentioned on here. One, I had made a note, and this is just something to keep an eye out for, but for the last few weeks, Vance has been a lot more visible than Trump himself is. He's holding more events. He's on TV more. I mean, I'm not saying Trump has been absent entirely. He was for a few weeks after the first assassination attempt. He didn't come out for a little while, but Trump has been around. But it seems like Vance is out more, and he's actually getting a little bit more attention because he says stupid stuff. Like Trump says stupid stuff too, but Vance is getting negative attention for his comments more often, it seems. And so you got to wonder, how much of this is planned by Trump, that he's like, he's actually holding back and not campaigning as much as he would otherwise. And also, is he getting pissed at Vance for getting more attention? I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure he is. But also, look, let's say I mean, how is he going to be out there if he's recording all these fucking commercials for more grifts every fucking week? I mean, every fucking week, there is a new commercial for some new grift.
Yes,
whether it's the trading card or the watch or whatever.
He has to get all this
down and doing a number of takes and practice reading this bullshit.
He has to get all this stuff in before he loses, because then his value is going to go down. There's been a lot of speculation too that, you know, we talked about how like close this is, but there's been speculation that Trump's internal polling shows that he's losing for sure.
Oh, I'm sure.
And that he is, and honestly, if I had to bet, I'm betting on Harris right now. The enthusiasm gap seems obvious, but like despite whatever polling numbers, because I also talked the other day about like the conservative pollsters have been out in force and they're like pushing the numbers up towards Trump.
But listen, I even saw some Trafalgar polls showing Harris like ahead in certain places.
I know, and there were.
And I was like, whoa, what the fuck?
Yeah, there were a couple of those, but like, so does Trump has Trump gone into an, oh crap, I'm going to lose, so I might as well just grift as much as I can. And then, I mean, hell, he talked about if he loses, he wants to go live in Venezuela.
Well, he also said recently, which I don't know if I believe, that he said if he lost, he wasn't going to run again.
Yeah.
But by the way, curiously, the new Trump watches, which are available for pre-order with a delivery later this fall, are not being advertised as luxury timepieces, but rather as collectible items for individual enjoyment only. It's
okay.
The joy that I get from looking at my fake gold watch that has the word Trump on it. Oh my God. Every day is just pure joy. Yes. That has to be. You know, what kind of a fucking loser are you that would get this and say that they are getting individual enjoyment? My goodness.
Well, look, especially for the $100,000 one, and we implied this before, but nobody who can spend $100,000 on that gives a crap about the watch at all. They just see this as a way to give down. They just want to give him money.
Right.
And get around any campaign finance restrictions, anything like that.
Probably will get the watch, and then just once they get it, they'll toss it in the garbage or give it to the pool guy or whatever or something. You know, here.
They don't want the damn watch.
I'm not wearing this piece of shit.
Now, of course, all of these too, though, I don't know specifically about the watch, but these are all licensing deals. Like, you know, so it's also like Trump probably has his money up front anyway from the licensing deal.
Oh, yeah,
so so he's not necessarily getting a certain percentage of. He probably has a percentage
from paying and then gets a percentage. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. I'm sure he does.
Otherwise, so that way he goes and he hawks them. So
okay. A note. The Walsh-Vance debate is coming up on October 1st. That's this coming Tuesday. So keeping watch out for that. It'll be fun, I'm sure. You know, I'm not entirely sarcastic. I want to see those two go up against each other. It should be an interesting thing. I think Walsh will probably kick Vance's ass as much as Harris kicked Trump's ass. That's basically my prediction right now.
I mean, I agree, but you
know, we'll see. But that's my prediction. Also, since we were talking Vance, I can't. The Vance dossier that was apparently hacked by the Iranians, and they've been trying to hawk to all kinds of journalists, but nobody has been publishing it, was finally published by somebody a couple days ago.
I wanted to get the Cliff Notes. I haven't seen anybody do like the Cliff Notes.
So actually the guy who published it gave a really high level. Basically it just the reason that none of the major news companies have not published it before. One is, of course, they're like, hey, we were fooled by all this stuff against Clinton. We're not going to be fooled again. Which is a little unfair, but still.
But I get it. Yeah.
But it's when you look at, there's nothing really all that newsworthy in here. It's like a standard Oppo research thing of things that are public anyway. So like it's got a list of all the times Vance said Trump was stupid or an idiot,
which we knew about those.
Which we knew. They've got a number of places where Vance was involved in one thing or another that might be embarrassing. And I mean, none of them are even as good as the couch thing, So, yeah, so like it's basically all normal stuff. There's no smoking gun that says like, oh my God, Vance was doing this thing that we had no idea about that's going to completely change the campaign. There's nothing like that. Now, of course, when they were going over the stolen Clinton stuff, they were talking about like Podesta's risotto recipe and crap like that. Right. So that wasn't particularly newsworthy either. But they still like we're having like an hour a day talking about the new revelation.
Yeah, but I was I never understood why anybody cared about those kind of innocuous emails, but whatever. Anyway, all right.
Yeah, and then the other thing is that special counsel did submit his 180-page document to Judge Chunkin. Chunkin? Is that how you say Chunkin?
I don't know. You're gonna. Yeah, I'll butcher the name too. The judge.
The judge in the January 6th case out of DC. Apparently, the earliest possible that we could see redacted versions of that filing are also next Tuesday, but there are chances that it'll be longer because the Trump people have until Tuesday to file their objections to a redacted version coming out. And so depending on what, the judge may take more time to decide on that. The judge may decide not to release redacted versions. And apparently she's making separate decisions on the main document and the appendices. The appendices are all where a whole bunch of goodies are in terms of actual witness testimony and stuff like that. So it's possible we'll get redacted views of some of this. It's possible that we won't until after the election or even until some eventual trial in 2028 or something. My expectation is like a lot of people have been sort of holding their breath and saying, this is the one thing we might get before the election is this document. My prediction is even if we get a redacted version, it's not going to have some massive new revelations that change anything. It's going to be more of the same kind of stuff we already know, and it's not going to change anybody's mind on anything. So.
By the way, two tidbits before I forget. Fed cut interest rates.
Oh, yeah.
And inflation came in lower than expected.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, and update. Number 3, the economy in the second quarter grew faster than originally. And there were decent inflation numbers too, I think.
Yeah, that was what I said. Inflation came in below.
Okay, we are wrapping up, but we do now know what happened to Mark Robinson. I have the update.
Okay, what happened?
This is Mark Robinson attended a truck show in Mount Airy, North Carolina tonight. He burned his hand leaning against a truck and was taken to the hospital. An official source says he is fine and home now.
Oh, well.
So, yeah, it's not somebody threw scalding water on him. It wasn't some attack. It was
those truck events are crazy. I just saw a news story related to some guy that went into a rage in this, not a monster truck, but close to it. That basically, he was arrested because he tried to run over about 6 people with a car and did run over a couple of cars, and people had to run and flee from being run over. So,
okay,
yeah.
So, but yeah, he just leaned on a hot part of a truck and burnt his hand. That's all. Okay, and you mentioned Mayor Adams was indicted for all sorts of corruption in New York, and it may not be over yet. There may be more to come. So, okay, with that, the stuff to end the show, go to curmudgeons-corner.com. You can find all the ways to contact us. You can find our archives, including transcripts in the last year or so. You can find a link to our YouTube. What else? And a link to our Patreon where you can give us money. And at $2 a month or more, and at Patreon, you can get at various levels, there are all kinds of stuff. We'll mention you on the show. We'll send you a postcard. We'll send you a mug. We'll blah, 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 blah. At $2 a month or more. Or if you just ask us, we'll invite you to the Curmudgeon's Corner Slack, where Yvonne and I and others are chatting throughout the week, sharing news links, sharing funny links, sharing whatever. So, Yvonne, do you have something to highlight from the Curmudgeon's Corner Slack?
Well, something you just posted. Childless congressional candidate in Virginia borrows his friend's family, his friend's wife and children for campaign photo op. What do you think? That if he won, they're never going to find out that this wasn't his fucking family? What the fuck is this?
Well, apparently he said, hey,
I just want to be surrounded by some nice looking people.
Well, yeah, essentially. And look, honestly, the thing is, it makes it look like it's his family. Right.
That picture is meant to deceive. That's not just me sitting with some random people. Hey, whatever. No.
Yeah, because look, my wife on her campaign stuff, there is a picture with me and the family, but there are also pictures with her with other random people, right? So, okay, you can have campaign pictures with random people in it. That's a thing. That's not a big deal. But this picture is posed so it looks like picture. This is my family. And it's not his family. It's his friend's wife and kids. and apparently he does have a fiance, it says, but they don't have a family yet. And apparently he didn't want to be in a picture with his fiance, I guess. I don't know. But
that's bizarre. The right thing would have been to just pose with his fucking fiance. What the hell? Hey, we just random kids. Hey, come on. Might as well just gonna fucking Photoshop them. Random. Funnier would have been right if he had done an AI generated image of him and a fake family. There you go.
So just to note as well, this is his opponent in this race is Eugene Vindman. If you remember the Vindman brothers
yes.
So Eugene is not the one who's been on TV the most, and the key player brother was his brother, but Eugene Vindman is his brother, and he's running. It's at Virginia's 7th district, and so yeah. So Anyway,
well, there you go.
I don't know. There you go. And we are done. Thanks everybody. Have a great week. Have fun, stay safe, blah, 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 blah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Blah, blah, blah,
blah, blah, blah, blah. I already sang at the beginning. I'm not singing again.
Yeah, and so, yeah, as we're recording this, let's see, how many days do we have left? 38.8 days left until the first election results start coming out. Except for Dixville Notch or whatever. That comes in like a few hours before that. So we're running out of time. By the time you listen to this, it'll probably be a day less than that. Not much time left. One way or another, this whole thing will be done. And then, or it could be like 2020 where we have weeks until we have election results, and then we have people fighting on January 6th at the Capitol. Who the hell knows? And all kinds of lawsuits. But hopefully we have a clear Harris win, on election night. That would be nice, right?
Well, we didn't have one with Biden clear on election.
I know. It took a week. I'm hoping but if it actually ends up close, that allows all kinds of shenanigans.
I know.
I don't want it to be close. I want the clear win. I want to be hearing that Harris is winning Florida by 9 p.m. on election night. Because then if that's happening, it's a blowout.
It's over. Yeah.
So anyway, now I'm not betting on that, but I'm hoping for that.
Be nice to hear.
Okay, we are done. Thank you, everybody. I said that already. Yeah, here's the outro music. Enjoy. Oh, say goodbye, Yvonne. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, that's it. I'm hitting stop.
All right, see how